Alright, I got some Mook Jasper. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Heat treated. I'm not sure how hot it needed to get to be at this point, but I imagine it's more than 400 degrees. Maybe it's 500. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. What are the dimensions? 2 by 3? Yeah. All right, pretty typical. Oh yeah. Naps very easily. It almost feels like a mahogany obsidian. Yeah, that's how easy it naps. Almost feels like obsidian. I mean, I've napped mook before, but there were smaller pieces than this, and I didn't do any direct percussion on it. Nope, just indirect percussion and pressure on the smaller pieces. This one's large enough that I can use the aluminum on it. Yeah. Aluminum billet. So what am I going to make? Let's find out. I don't know. Just thinking. I don't know what I'm going to make out of it yet. I'm just looking at how it reacts too. I can't be too casual with this because it'll snap. Just like mahogany obsidian will snap easily in half, or 1/4 of it will snap off or something. So I go as far as I can with direct percussion until I feel I'm getting diminishing returns. Switch over to indirect percussion. I feel like I'm getting diminishing returns already. Yeah. It just wipes out too much of the edge with direct percussion, so if I want to preserve the width, I need to switch over. Okay. Let's see. There's an issue right here with a weird crack, which I think is part of the original nodule. It does not look like heat damage. It just looks like a crack that's pretty common with nodules. If I hit inward too much, it crushes, just like obsidian. Yeah, a good heat treat will be very glass-like. This is a good heat treat. It's got issues, right, in the original stone. So, got to work around the issues. That's not good. Too much of the edge, and I was worried about removing too much of the edge with direct percussion. I think I think it scooped out a lot because there's already a defect in there, and when there's a defect and you don't think there is, the chips come off or the flakes come off more easily. So I hit that pretty hard. That's why it scooped out a lot, because it was It was partially cracked right there, so it just kind of blew away too much because I hit too hard for that particular area. I already had a crack in it. See, there was nothing there, so that flake was normal. This flake is normal. So yeah, if the edges crush a lot, it's advantageous to do a lot of abrading to see how that works. Sometimes it doesn't work all that well to abrade a lot if it's crushing. You gotta find that sweet spot. Because sometimes, as you know, if you abrade a lot, the platform might be too strong, or the striking surface may be too strong, and you'll snap it. It'll break in half because there's just too much pull on the edge. It's better to have a little bit of crushing than have it snap in half. You can make an effective flake even if it crushes a little bit. You can get an effective flake if it crushes slightly. It's not that big a deal. If there's just a little bit of crushing going on. The problem is when there's a lot of crushing, then it doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, it's just opportunistic flake removals in the worst areas first. Do the worst first. But also pay attention to the ends. You always want the ends to be thinner than the middle. Always. And unless you're doing a specific type of artifact that has a really thick base. And there are some like that. Then you leave the base thick. Now I have a bad habit of leaving all the bases thick. I just got into that habit. It's not that great a habit to get into, especially with deeply notched bases or deeply notched stems, because you need some thinness to do the good notching. Unless you've had, thousands of hours of experience in notching, and then you can notch any thickness you want. Yeah. But if you don't have that much experience with notching, a thin workpiece is your best bet. Much easier to notch without stalling. I'm still working on trying to get that crack out of there. With any type of really easy to knap material, it's tending to want to dive a little bit. So I have to be careful not to send in flakes too powerfully, because then they'll tend to dive in. So I'm just going to skim the surface with each strike. There's another crack right there. Just skim the surface with each strike, just little by little, whittling it down. Eventually I'll get under those cracks. I hope. Yeah, I still have it right there. Mostly downward force so I don't send it in too far. I don't know if I'll be able to get that crack out of there. That's not good. does not go all the way through. It's going to get really, really thin. Some might say, "Ooh, that's a good thing. It gets really, really thin." Well, yeah, it can be a good thing if that's what you're going for. Yeah. You don't always have to go really, really thin, especially when it's delicate. That's not good. That's what I get not paying attention too well. I'm being too opportunistic. I need to start preparing the edges a little bit better. And preparing the tooltip a little bit better. Without taking all day. Because then I wear myself out mentally. If it takes me too much effort and time in the beginning, by the time I get to the end, I'm worn out. Yep. You can still make a good point even though you're worn out at the end, but it's harder. This crack is still in there. Right there. I'll just have to make a piece that requires me to remove that section. Right? Yes? I don't know what kind of workpiece that would be, or I don't know what kind of finished piece that would be. We'll see. So what do I talk about this time? Ooh, that was a good one. What do I talk about this time? When I was talking about the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, I forgot about the oil crisis, right? The oil crisis and the energy crisis, there are two crises there. So, yeah, I forgot about they were trying to conserve gas, but that was the original excuse. You know, the oil crisis began in the early 70s and ended by the late 70s. But they didn't change the speed limit thing until, or they didn't end that stupid speed limit until 95. So let's say that the those oil crisis and energy crisis ended in 1979 or early 80s, but they didn't stop the speed limit until 95. That's like what, 15 years or so. At least 15 years. I remember the excuse was, well, it's good for safety. I didn't really hear the excuse that it was the energy that they were trying to conserve. The excuse for the lower speed limit, the way I experienced it, was that they wanted to keep that law because of safety. If you Google it, Google says the safety angle was not well supported because there were other factors involved in less highway deaths. There was definitely less highway deaths with the lower speed limit, but they didn't know exactly how much because they were also improving seat belts, improving the crash characteristics of the car itself to absorb a lot of the shock. You know, the car chassis were starting to crumple to absorb shock. Yeah, I saw that stage where cars were being redesigned to crumple up so that the passengers didn't absorb the shock. The car absorbs the shock. So there were less deaths from that. So forth and so on. And the technology for the engines were getting better and more fuel efficient. So it wasn't the energy crisis, or it wasn't the lack of fuel, because they effectively doubled pretty early on the fuel efficiency of cars. I remember all that stuff. I started driving in 1980. I think I started driving in 1980. But I didn't drive much on the highways at that time. I didn't start driving a lot until I came to Texas. We came to Texas in 84. And in 1985, I think that's when I bought my first car. 85 or 86. And at that time, everyone was not paying attention to the speed limit. It was 55 in most places, but you would go 9 miles an hour over the speed limits. What's that, 64? And then you'd get a radar detector, and you can go up to 70. Slow down when you get near a speed trap. So no one was paying attention to the speed limit. In Texas, anyway. Except me, I didn't have a radar detector. So there I am driving 64 everywhere. On the highway. Then I got married in 89. And my life became Mr. Taxi after that. Pretty much. It's a long time. Yeah, and I actually, for a while, to make extra money, I was a taxi driver. An actual taxi driver. Yep. I'd worked the night shift when I started. I tried to get a day shift, but no one wanted to give up their day shifts. I couldn't find a taxi to rent during the day. It's all night shift stuff. So, I worked the night shift, driving the drunks around. Oh, yes. People act really funny when they're going home at the end of the night. Everyone wants to go home at the same time, of course. And they take forever. When they're drunk, they can't count their money. You count it for me? Okay. Some people, they are so out of it that they just want to go home. They just tell me their address. They don't even know what's going on. They're ready to pass out. I have to take the money out of their wallet. Sometimes even get the keys from them because they're sitting there trying to get into their house and they can't get the keys in the door lock, so I had to open the door for them. I don't have to. I could just drop them off, but I feel so bad sometimes. I don't want them sitting outside with all that money in their wallet or purse or whatever. So I open the door for them. They go in. I close the door behind them. Hopefully they will lock it, but sometimes I didn't hear the deadbolt or anything. Oh well. And off I go. Next one. And thinking to myself, nah, that took forever. Everyone wants to go home at the same time. It took forever. So by the time I get back to the town, everyone's already gone. I get one or two fares that are good, that are far away, but that's it, because they're far away. By the time you get back, everyone's already home. Yeah. So it's not too fun. Not too fun doing the night shift. Although it can be lucrative sometimes, especially if someone says, wait right here. I'm gonna pay you for an hour to drive everybody home. They're just gonna wait for you, and I'll give you yada yada. Usually it was around $100 for an hour of just driving everybody home. I said, okay, I'll come back. I'll drive everybody home from here, and then I'll come back and see who's left. Usually it takes a little bit more than an hour, but that's okay. They pile all into the taxi. 8-passenger van. And when you get a bunches of people all, wound up and partying and all in the van at the same time. Yeah, sometimes it got interesting. But I did not do that for very long. 1 year tops. I don't even think it was a whole year. A lot of students, a lot of university students. Yeah, I think it was, mostly student age people. But you get all kinds. On the night shift, coming home from clubs and stuff. Mostly college kids. But you get all kinds. Yeah. And the times I would sit there and just shuttle everybody home, that was usually at a frat party or sorority party. That kind of thing. Anyway, that was so long ago. I did try to get, I signed up for my Uber license. I think it was 2 years ago. Just in case. Well, it's not really a license, just you sign up and they approve you or whatever, and you're ready to go. Open an account and you're ready to go. Never did it. I had enough. I said, nah. It's got to be a better way. Got to be some better ways to make some part-time income. So I chit-chatted my way through a bunch of this already. I don't know what else to do now. Except pressure flake and get you guys all bored. This is boring because it's just like knapping black butter Dacite or mahogany Obsidian. Yeah. It's a very nice heat treat. And I'm able to send in flakes as long as I got rid of all the cracks, right? So that's all it was. You get rid of all the cracks and it's just smooth sailing. Except when it wants to try to dive in. You got to be careful that you don't put too much force into it. Now, can you run? The next question is, can I run long flakes on this stuff? Yeah, but let's see. That might require a whole lot of pressure, and if that's the case, I might not be able to do it without snapping the tip off or some foolish thing like that. It doesn't require all that much force to remove these flakes, so it's promising. I might be able to do some long flakes on certain parts of this point, as long as it's cooperative. Yeah, and as long as I don't abrade it too much. If I abrade it too much, It removes too much of the edge. Yeah. All right, so that's as good as I'm going to get that side. Even though there's little bitty steps, little bitty step fractures, I'm going to have to take that curve out or get that lump out. Once I get that lump out from underneath there, it'll straighten out more, or it will look better. But to get that out, I don't think I can do it with the pressure, so I'm going to hit it with some percussion. Yep. I don't trust the pressure flaking. I snap more tips off with pressure than I do with percussion. Of course, with percussion, I get the step fracturing. It's either really good or really bad when I do the percussion on the tip. Usually I can do pretty good, but you never know. Yeah, you never know. Can you see? Nope. Can't see. Can never see it good. You cannot ever see it well enough. I zoom in like this and people will say, no, wait, I want to see the front view. Show me the angle from the front. Yeah. Because that's the view I can't see. So that's the angle I want. You know, when you're doing this flint knapping, you're not going to be able to see the front view. Why would you want to see the front view? You're not napping that way. You don't have a mirror in front of you looking at the front view of what you're doing. You're looking at the thing like this. This is your view. I say that and people get all bent out of shape. I still want to see the front view, dude. I don't know why. I don't nap with no mirror in front of me, but I still want to see the front view because that's what I want. I want it. Yeah, I know. I've heard it a gazillion times. Why don't you ever shoot the front view? And you know what my answer is? It's because you don't see the front view when you're napping. Why would I show the front view if you don't see it when you're napping? I don't want to see no front view when I'm watching some guy nap. No. I want to see what he's seeing. I want to know what he sees. How is he able to do it from what he sees? Is there something to it? Is he holding it in a way that he can see what's going on well enough? Usually the answer is there's a lot of guesswork. Just got to get used to it. Sometimes you can kind of feel those flakes coming off. Or your fingers can kind of tell you where they're going to come off from. You feel that thickness between your fingers after a while. And you go, this is a thick spot. I'm going to hit that spot. I don't need to know what the angle is from the front. No, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the angle. I'm not seeing it. I'm feeling the angle. Eventually you're going to have to do it that way. You're going to have to learn to feel that angle in there. Yep. At first you're going to want to see it. You're going to want to see the angle. But as you get more experience, it's all feel. You don't want to be thinking about it. You don't want to be using only your eyes either, because your eyes are not that great. You have to integrate everything. Integrate everything. Yeah, your eyes work, but you got to integrate the feeling. That's why I took my glove off. Sometimes it gets in the way. I can't feel what's going on. Is it really grabbing the edge, or is it slipping, or are these flakes coming off easily or not so easily? The glove kind of interferes with the feel of it. Because if it was all done by sight, I could just keep the glove on, but I gotta feel what's going on. like that, I can feel that the flake was traveling enough for me to get the desired effect. But with the glove on, I wouldn't be able to do such a subtle flake to get rid of little subtle messy areas. Certainly couldn't do it if I was just looking at the angle and that's it. Yeah, angle doesn't tell you much. It's usually the same old every time anyway. With just slight tweaking. Very slight tweaking that you don't really want to think about. You don't want to think about the slight tweaks. Because they're not always going to be the same. It's not the same every time. You got to kind of feel around and get a feel for what's next. And you can take a lot of the feeling out by planning everything as best you can and not be opportunistic like me. You can set up platforms and striking areas very carefully, following certain ridges and not others. Try to maximize your flake travel, very methodically and scientifically. Trying to remember the past and do it from memory, from actual conscious memory instead of subconscious muscle memory. Some people have the brain power to do that. I don't like doing that, probably because I don't have the brain power to remember consciously how it's done. Yeah. Okay. That's a subtle thing here. I gotta remove that lump. I don't have to because real artifacts are lumpy. They're not perfectly tapered. So it's good enough. For a real artifact, that's good enough. But for the video, it's cruddy. Oh yes. It's so cruddy for the video. It's nasty. I'm thinking, that's what I've always been thinking, that you've got to do what's right at the limit of your skill for the video. Otherwise, it's not a good video. I've been thinking that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys are not that itchy. Maybe you don't need to see the most difficult ways at the limit of my skill. Force myself to go to the limit on each one. Maybe I don't have to. That'd be nice. But I do get itchy too. Sometimes I see something that bugs me and I get itchy. And sometimes I see something that bugs other people, but it doesn't bug me. You know what I mean? Some other people don't like the wavy edges. I don't care about the wavy edges too much. Yeah, it bugs me sometimes. Especially when there's a big lump right there. But it doesn't bug me all that much. Not like some people, they want it perfectly straight. Perfect. Absolutely beautiful. That part I don't care too much about. It just takes too much. It's too stressful to get it perfectly straight. It's too persnickety. Yeah. And this is the hardest part. It's already thin, and I'm trying to get it thinner to clean up some of this mess. I'm going to come in and clean up some of this right here. And usually all I need is a big, bold, wide flake to clean up some of the mess. That's all I need. Just one bold flake. This side's good. Good enough. Let's see. And it's all by feel. I really didn't plan out that strike all that well, but it felt like it would work. Now when you're new, you're not going to be able to feel it like that. Unfortunately. You're just going to have to do it methodically. That's how you form the habit. Yeah. And after a while, doing the same thing over and over, you can have much better results. Yep, because of practice. Like I said before, most people want to know what they're missing. What am I missing? Why can't I get it done? The thing you're missing is the practice. Same with me. If I can't get it done, it's usually because I don't have enough practice doing it. Or the stone is cruddy. It took me a long time to figure out, yeah, sometimes the stone is cruddy. And it looks good. Everyone says it's good. But just my luck, I got a piece that's cruddy. And someone calls me up or sends me an email and can't do nothing with this. What's wrong? You know what's wrong? Do you know what's wrong with it? And I tell them, yeah, I got a feeling that's just cruddy stone. Yeah, but it looks just like my other good stuff. Welcome to the world of knapping. What in the wide, wide world of knapping is this when you got something that's just not working? You can't figure it out. Chances are you got unlucky with the stone. Yeah. Or you're trying to work miracles. Trying to thin down thin pieces and thinking it's not a big deal. How difficult can it be to thin it down to even thinner? Because you thinned it before. You thinned it on the other passes. Why is this last pass so difficult? It's because of the edge, dude. The edge. I don't call people dude. It's because of the edge. The edge gets thinner and thinner too, not just the middle. And if you wanted some big bold flakes or long flakes, you got to make sure the edge can handle the pressure and the force. And a lot of times it can't. And you end up with subpar flaking. Because the edge can't handle what you're trying to do. That you were trying to do that before on a thicker, fatter edge. And now it's really thin and delicate. You're trying to do the same thing. And that's what happens. See that? But I got the results on the surface that I wanted. But you can see there's a difference in the edge. And that's why it's so difficult to thin a thin piece. Because as it gets thinner, you have to change up your strikes a little bit. Tweak it. Get it changed up. It's a whole different ball game as it gets thin. It's a whole different ball game. Yeah. You gotta be tiptoeing through the tulips more and more as it gets thinner and thinner. And a lot of times you'll get to the point where you gotta be so delicate that the flakes stop traveling. And you say to yourself, just when I needed to thin it down enough, the flakes aren't traveling because it's too thin. But I need to clean it because I need to do damage control at the end. You know, you're torturing yourself. I need to do damage control at the end, but it's not letting me because it's too thin. Yep. Yep. That's the hardest thing in flint knapping. You guys just gotta practice, practice. Some of you say, well, I don't got 10 years, man. I don't got no 10 years to learn this stuff. Yeah, I know. I'm going to try to help you speed it up by showing you from my personal view here the first shooter viewpoint. Is that what they call it in the gaming world? First shooter viewpoint. It's something like that. I know I'm not saying it right. Anyway, that's as far as I'm going to go with it. I don't want to take a risk and do any more. As far as thinning and flakes on the surface, I'm going to do the edge now. I'm going to sharpen the edge. Now, how does it compare with the jasper? These are two totally different consistencies, two totally different stones. As far as texture goes, this was the one in the last video before this. And they might look similar, but they're completely different. This one naps like chert, this one naps like obsidian. They're both cherts. But this one naps like a kind of like a cruddy chert, but easy to nap. This naps like a mahogany obsidian that's a little bit tougher than average. So I don't need to grind the edge as much, or I don't have to be paying attention too much on the edge. It's a lot more forgiving than obsidian. I'm not getting that white powdery crushing that obsidian will give you. It's actually very pleasant to nap this stuff. I got a slab of this too. Let's see. Yeah, my friend Brad sent me a slab of that too. But I don't like doing slabs. Everyone wants me to do slabs. They don't like doing them either, but they want to get to like them. They wish they did like them because there's a lot available. A lot of slabs available. And if you can get good at doing slabs, you're home free. Yeah. The world is your oyster. I know that. Still don't like slabs, even though the world could be my oyster if I got good at them. Why don't they say the world could be my chocolate cake? Why oyster? Because of the pearls and stuff? I guess. Pearls are overrated. In case you didn't know. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. So yeah, I would say the world can be your chocolate cake if you learn to do slabs. Put some strawberries on top. The only time napping is chocolate cake with strawberries is when I'm doing the black butter Dacite or black butter obsidian, or some of this Coastal Plains chert that's heat treated perfectly. I'm getting to like it a lot, even though, well, this jasper's related to that, right? Related to that stuff. But I'm really getting to like this Coastal Plains stuff. This is almost chocolate cake with strawberries on top. Yeah. The only thing I'd like maybe a little bit better than that is Hornstone. And the related stones that are nature's heat treat. I think Fort Payne is in that group. I don't know. I can't remember. There are other cherts in that group with Hornstone. They're all excellent in my view. And it's raw. You don't have to heat treat it. Is it as good as this heat treated Mookaite? It is in some ways, and in other ways, no. It's very hard to decide. The reason why I like it a little bit better than this is because I'm feeling like this is going to break at any time. Really makes me nervous. With Hornstone, it's a little more leeway. It's not as delicate. But Hornstone can get really, really steppy, and you can't get rid of the steps, and it's very aggravating. Because it'll thin down really nice for you, and then there'll be an inconsistent area in there, and you'll get a step, and you can't get it out. Because it's already really thin. But with heat treat like this, the heat treat helps to even it out. So the whole thing is consistent for the most part. At least it's more consistent than in the raw state. You know, the heat treat can even it out, which makes it so nice. So yeah, if I were to rate nicely heat treated Mookaite Jasper, I would rate it about an 8 or 9. I don't think I've ever napped material that's a 10. Although some of the bottle glass is around a 10. And yeah, it's glass. Yeah. I have napped some really, really nice bottle glass. But it takes time to get used to it, right? So I don't know. Maybe it's a 9. I've also napped some excellent heat treat, but it's luck a lot of times. If you get lucky and get a good piece of heat treat, you can once in a while get a 10 as far as nappability goes. But it's got to check all the boxes. Consistent all the way through, basically. Flexible enough to withstand shock, but not too delicate that it crushes. Yeah. Obsidian is not near the top, unless it's like certain mahogany obsidians and certain black butter obsidians. They're not near the top. They're like a 7 or 8. Most obsidians are 7 or 8. Heat treats can get up to 9. And I've never encountered a 10 in the knapping stone. Now, if I get good at heat treating this coastal plain stuff, it might approach a 10. It depends. Some of the Texas cherts can approach a 10 if you get tuned in to how to heat treat them. Like I just saw a piece the other day. Let's see. Where is it? I saw you. Did I put you in the... I think I put you in one of the bins. I put you in one of the auction boxes. Dang it. But it's a lighter colored chert. It's a boring color, but man, it naps beautifully. Where is it? Yeah, it's so rare I can't find it in that big box of flakes. All right, so I'm going to stop there. This was actually more enjoyable than this. Even though this feels more like stone, this feels kind of like plastic, just like the mahogany obsidian does. Feels otherworldly, this stuff. And flake over grind guys, they like this stuff here because you can run really long flakes on it. It's really nice. Yeah, I'm going to put notches in this stuff eventually. I'm just going to save up these bifaces. I might offer them together in the auction as a collection of bifaces, or I might start notching some of these. Anyway, that's it for this video. Yeah, that was cool. It was dicey for a little while there, but with the cracks and stuff, but I don't see any more cracks. And it was starting to dive in some areas. It was getting me worried, but as long as I didn't overdo it with the force trying to drive flakes really, really far, it turned out okay. All right. Come on, it's slippery. All right.